somnifère, je déteste le somnifère.
Geneviève, soyez sérieuse, mon petit. Geneviève, où allez-vous? Vous pouvez commencer dans votre lit.
Renoir was born in Mont-de-Marc section of Paris, an environment in which art predominated. He was the son of Impressionist painter Pierre-Auguste Renoir. In 1913, he graduated from the University of Aix-en-Provence and later joined the military. During World War I, he got injured in his leg, and during his recovery, he spent his time in the Paris movie houses where he discovered the serials and Charlie Chaplin. After he recovered, he rejoined the Air Force and finished the war with the rank of lieutenant. Renoir became so interested in the art of film that he wrote a screenplay and turned it into the film Catherine, or Une vie sans joie, A Life Without Joy, in 1923, starring his first wife, André Hirschling, as Catherine Hessling. The first film Renoir directed was La Fille de l'eau, released in 1924, The Girl of Water, which also starred his wife. All of his early films were produced in makeshift ways, with technical clumsiness, a lack of means, and a certain amateurness. These early films, which reveal a strong pictorial influence, have taken on with time a particular charm.
Quelle malchance d'avoir une belle écriture.
Oh, mais si c'est devenu indigne de toi, je les écrirai, tu sais.
Ah, ce serait du joli. Faire plus d'une semaine de crédit à l'époque actuelle, ça...
Oh, mais tu remets ça?
Parfaitement. De mon temps, je montrais...
With the birth of sound in 1927, French cinema of the 1930s was able to reflect all aspects of French society through a major existing current, poetic realism. During 1930s, Renoir produced many notable works, but their freedom of compositions was not well received amongst the critics of that period, and therefore the films received much less success than it deserved. These films included La Nuit de Carrefour, 1932, Night at the Crossroads, based on a novel by Georges Simenon, Boudou Sauvé des Eaux, 1932, Boudou Saved from Drowning, an anarchistic and unconstrained comedy, Madame Bovary, 1934, based on Gustave Flaubert's classic novel, and Le Crime de Monsieur Long, 1936, The Crime of Monsieur Long, which in contrast to the rather stilted manner of the first years of sound films, foretells a reconquest of the true moving picture style, especially in use of improvisation and of montage, to achieve certain associations of ideas. It is also around this time that Renoir produced his most famous films, The Grand Illusion in 1937 and Rules of the Game in 1939. These films reflected the gloomy morale of the 1930s, a cause of the aftermath of World War I, the Great Depression, and the imminent danger of World War II. Shaped by social and political events and influenced by Impressionism, Surrealism, and Realism, poetic realism was a French movement that can be hard to define since its conventions were not as defined as other movements. To be able to understand Renoir's most important films, let's look into this term a little bit more. Some of the characteristics of poetic realism are:
Oh, tu sais, nous sommes toutes une bonne. Il y a Merlin le parfumeur, Cœur-Père le chocolatier, et puis Steve. Mais vous, tu ne connais pas les stylos?
Poetic realist films have a strong emphasis on mise en scène. Its decor, setting, sound, and lighting are very important to the recreation of realism. In other words, the realism stemmed from the subject matter, the poetic from the subject matter's treatment. For example, The Grand Illusion takes place during World War I, the realism from the subject matter. But unlike Hollywood war movies such as The Big Parade or Hell's Angels, we never encounter war battles, grenades, or war trenches, but rather a story about mankind while in war and the relationships between the social classes in France at the time. Filmed in 1937, The Grand Illusion takes place during World War I and revolves around 3 French compatriots in a German prisoner of war camp. It is in this camp where we start seeing a shift in relationships, which at first were emphasized by the differences in class and nationality, but in the end, the characters overcame this difference to show the human spirit could triumph regardless of the situation. It is through these characters that Renoir questions class, race, nation, politics, and to compare and contrast men who sought to uphold honor in the face of the horror and insanity of war. Filmed in 1939, The Rules of the Game also does not follow the story of only one character, but rather the story of different characters, both the masters and the servants in the castle, which creates an effect of instability in the film. Renoir criticizes the extravagancies, insensibilities, and irresponsibilities of the characters, which it was parallel to the upper-class French society of the 30s, which social status and life expectancy was not affected by the rise of fascism and the beginning of World War II, while it was affecting those who were poor. The hunting sequence is one of the most powerful scenes in the film. If we think about what was going on in 1939 in Europe, beginning of World War II and hate against minorities, we can see how Renoir used this scene to show us the cruelty and apathy in mankind. Renoir uses close-ups of animals such as rabbits and birds trying to escape the noise and death caused by humans. Renoir also used rapid rhythmic editing in some of the scenes, which show us the animals trying to escape but failing to do so. It also shows us the difference between the rabbits and the birds running for their lives while the humans stay calm and even laugh about their misfortune of missing shots. Renoir's films are full of life, like Impressionist paintings are full of life. His most explicit homage to the art of his father is Partie de Campagne, a film that does the same job as pastoral painting. A masterpiece of Impressionist cinema, the film presents all the poetry and all the charm of the pictorial sense that is, far more than his technique, the basis of his art as a filmmaker. And yet today, his films are a silver thread that connects us with the paintings of the 1870s.